We're here today with Brad Carlson, who's seeking the Ward 7 seat on the Springfield City Council in the April 2nd election. We appreciate you being here today, Brad, and invite you to start by providing an opening statement that introduces voters to who you are and why you're seeking this office.
Great. Thanks for inviting me here. And again, like you said, my name is Brad Carlson. I'm a candidate for Ward 7 alderman here. My opponent is Joe McMiniman. I've been here in Springfield for almost 30 years. My wife and I have been married for since 1992, for almost 27 years. We've raised 2 kids here. Ashley, who's a senior in college, our son Reed, who is a freshman. They went to parochial school, K through 8, at Trinity Lutheran on MacArthur, and then they both graduated from Springfield High School. So I give you that because I think it's part of the background's important of why I make these decisions and where I come from. I've been fortunate enough in my 30-plus years here in Springfield, or 30 years, to work at the federal government level down to the township level, and the state government and city and county government in between. I also serve on the Capital Township Board. I was elected Capital Township trustee 2 years ago, and I know that that's a topic hot and heavy in the city of Springfield. I also served on I'm proud of my record of 7 years on the City Civil Service Commission, where we oversaw testing for police and fire, as well as oversaw some of the minority recruitment, and I'm proud of that record. So I think for me here, it's about service. My 30-plus years here, I've been able to help solve problems in a cooperative manner, not in a combative manner, and I think people have recognized that, and because of that, I'm getting help from both Democrats, Republicans, business and labor, and I think we need to, in order for Springfield to continue to move forward, we need to be able to sit down and solve some serious problems that we have here in Springfield.
Okay, thank you. So you are facing an incumbent for this seat. What made you decide to challenge Alderman McMiniman?
Well, I came to Springfield. I never came to Springfield to run for office. That wasn't it. I wanted to help people, and I think, I'd been here over 20 years before I seek public office. A seat came open on the Capital Township Board, and I threw my hat in the ring, and I was successful there. I think people took notice of that. I liken it to sports, and I told my kids who are heavily active in sports here at Springfield High, sort of let the game come to you. And that's sort of what I did with this aldermanic race. I think once I was successful on the Capital Township Board, I think last summer, early fall, when people were looking for various offices, I made a few phone calls. A few people called me and said, hey, we like your record, we like what you've done at the various offices, and you need to take a look at running against the current alderman, Joe McMiniman.
Okay.
What's the most pressing issue facing Ward 7?
You look at Ward 7. The southern part of the district is Sherwood subdivision, a little bit older, and then I go into Terra Hill, which is a newer subdivision, and then obviously that area behind High V, which is a little bit older now. And as I've walked the ward for 4 months, and I see it down the street from me. I mean, I live in Oregon in almost a 30-year-old house. I mean, it seems to me as infrastructure would be the #1 concern. I think the storm sewer situation. I mean, whenever we have a big rain, it seems like seems like we have a lot of water backup. So, to me, it would be infrastructure. I mean, obviously, we have some sewer systems in this town that are 150 years old. Right now, I think we're paying maybe $1 million a year for some of this upkeep, and the professionals, Public Works, would tell you they'd like to be paying, spending $4 or $5 million a year to keep up with those needs.
Let's look citywide now from the ward. One of the pressing issues facing the city is homelessness. Mm-hmm. And How would you, as an elected official, work to address the homelessness problem here in Springfield?
Well, I think it's one of communication. I think right now we have a couple different. I think the city is the landlord over at the warming center. They're involved with that, even though I think it's privately run by the people over at Helping Hands. And then we have Helping Hands. And as we know, I've talked to a couple of those people on the board. Helping Hands, as we know, is there's sort of a barrier entry there when you go in. I think they drug test and alcohol test for that night. I know they alcohol test. I'm not going to say about the drug test. I may be wrong, but they do alcohol tests. Whereas over at the warming center, it's more or less, hey, they throw out cots at night, and you can come in and spend the evening. I think we need to. It's Erica Smith who is what I've seen as the foregone expert in this area. And, she was on the radio a couple of months ago, and she may have even been in the paper that, hey, it's really not a bed issue. We don't necessarily need more beds. It's about, trying to get the services, trying to get the folks that need help, the help they need.
What type of help do you think that is?
Well, it's before education. I think it's probably, whatever. Obviously, they've struggled with some sort of substance abuse or some mental health. So I think it's getting them the direction. It's getting them the services that they need to address, a couple of those personal struggles before, we let them out. So.
We've argued as an editorial board the need for economic development is another huge issue the city needs to do a better job of addressing. How should the city try to attract businesses?
Well, there's a couple of different things that I've seen. First of all, I think this new EDC is going to prove dividends. Is going to be very beneficial for us. I think we need to speak in one voice. And what I say by that is, I think when companies are coming to town or companies looking to move to Springfield, right now maybe, and nothing wrong with them, but we have the Tourism Council, we're the home of state government. We have maybe 2 or 3 different areas that these businesses are calling, public works. But I think it's streamlining communication. So if they can just go right now, I think if they can just go to the EDC and talk to Eric, say, hey Eric, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? And along with that, I think, when businesses are looking to relocate in town, and I do some of this out at DNR. I'm the chief of staff out there, and businesses are coming to Illinois for various reasons. First of all, they're looking at how stable our state government is. Same thing here. When businesses are coming to Springfield, not only are they looking for good schools, good infrastructure, good parks, but they're looking at the city council. How does everybody get along? And I think it's no secret that my opponent not only does not get along, but he refuses to sit down with business and labor to try to move Springfield forward. The stat from talking to a couple of developers who I know, the stat is it's roughly 40% of parcels in Sangamon County are off the tax rolls. It's a home of state government. In order for us to address some of these problems that we've talked about and probably going to talk about, the pie needs to be bigger. We need more tax revenue coming in, and the only way we do that is by attracting businesses. And then one additional note on that, when businesses come into town, right now, the permitting process and all that the first steps before you can start building, that's all under Public Works. I would move that, which is to me in the organizational chart it's 2 or 3 places removed from the mayor. I would somehow move that directly under the mayor's office. And I've talked to a couple developers, when they go to Bloomington Normal or they're looking to relocate, Bloomington Normal is sort of a one-stop shop. They may go in a room like this, and I've got this person here, because there are a number of permitting procedures, and again, I know this from DNR, that you got to go through. Here it seems like it seems like what I've heard, we've moved the not necessarily moved the goalposts, but hey, I've got this situation resolved, and then a week later, oh, you got to go to this next person. Let's sort of streamline it a little bit, and I would like to look at what Bloomington Normal's done, and so to answer your question, there's really a whole host of reasons of why businesses, want to come here or don't want to come here.
Just really quick, you said your opponent refuses to sit down with labor, or you believe?
He's talked about it. No, he
Okay.
has talked about the fact that he will no longer sit down with business or
Right.
labor because in his mind, they may appear before him at the city council meeting. And he no longer sits down with either the Democrat Party, the Republican Party. I mean, you guys editorialized last summer in June when, he couldn't get along with other city council members. I mean, whenever you have other aldermen looking at a code of conduct for the city council, then you have a problem. But we have to be able to sit down with business and labor in order for us to grow. There's room at the table for everybody.
Okay. I would argue that Editorial was not just him; it was a couple.
No,
people.
okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine.
Took two to tango in that particular instance. Let's just put it that way. That prompted us to write that.
Sure.
Going back to the EDC, that you like it. Do you think they're doing a good job? I know they're in their infancy.
I think they're in infancy, but it seems like they're bringing everybody to the table. I think they're bringing business, labor, everybody to the table. So no, I think although I was not at the where Eric spoke a couple weeks ago, I read the article and read what the SJR put out, and it seemed like I like the it's my lead follower, get out of the way, and it seemed like Eric was sort of took that approach.
Okay. The city is part of. They provided some of the initial funding, the $250,000 last year. It's our understanding it should be in the budget again this year. Is that something you would support the city continuing to contribute to the EDC?
Yeah, I'd be in support of that, for sure.
Okay.
Again, to me, it's all about communication and sort of one voice speaking on behalf of the city.
Okay. The last couple of years have been tough financially for the city, budget-wise, and the city council did approve a couple tax increases the last 2 years. The sales tax increase, the hotel motel tax increase, the telecom, and I should write these down because I keep missing the fourth one. I know you weren't on council at that time, but if you had been on council, how do you think you would have voted for those tax increases?
Well, yeah, it's hard to say without being there, but generally I would say no to any new tax increases.
Okay.
And again, I think it's a it might be it may be a spending problem, but for me, it's more of a revenue problem. Again, I'm going to go back to the home estate government. We have so many parcels off our tax rolls. We need to grow the pie bigger and add more of a tax base through growth. And again, I bring it back when we have my opponent and certain aldermen not wanting to sit down with business and labor who we need to grow Springfield. I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves.
Let's say you are elected to the council and you're in your first budget season. What principles would you adhere to as you looked at the fiscal plan, and like what would it need to get your approval? The principles you would look at personally that say, okay, this has a tax increase. No, I'm not going to approve it.
I think efficiencies.
Okay.
I think we need efficiencies, and we need to streamline some things. I mean, one of my first goals or objectives would be to see the successful completion of the merger of Capital Township into the county.
Okay.
Into
the county.
Into the county.
Okay.
It should go into the county. Right now, 2/3 of the work being done by and I'm on the Capital Township board. 2/3 of the work being done by Capital Township is already being done by the county. We have 1/3 in Don Gray's office, who does a property tax assessment. We have 1/3 over in Joe Ayler's office, the treasurer, who does the other third. And so the remaining third is 11th Street, is our office at 11th Street. The General Assistance Program can seamlessly go into community resources. I mean, it was just, and we'll know in another month here at the city, it was less than a year ago, the city was $11.5 million in debt. People were calling me when their snow wasn't plowed correctly. People are calling me because I know I'm active when their leaves weren't picking up properly. why do we seem to think, and I'll say it, why does the mayor and my opponent seem to think that the city can take on more services, can take on another unit of local government? By their own definition, by their own savings, they're going to save $500,000 a year. We're on record and showing we're going to save $685,000 a year by going into the county. Okay. And I'm sure there's other efficiencies when I get here and see. I mean, I think there's probably some overlap in some various departments that I would like to look at as well.
Okay. Every year, a larger share of the budget is now going to the pensions, to our retired police and firefighters.
Right.
Certainly not an issue specific to Springfield,
right.
And
right.
You are limited somewhat by the legislature and what you can do to address pensions. But if you were elected, what type of pension reforms would you advocate for as a member of council?
Well, you're right. I mean, it starts with the legislature, and some things have to be changed. But it was good to read last week that I think they've always taken a neutral position or didn't want to discuss it. But the IML, the Illinois Municipal League, last week for the first time said, you know what? Let's take, there are 650 statewide public safety pensions around the state or towns. So let's pool those resources. Now let's set aside the police and fire right now, but let's pool those 650 public pensions, and so we can get some sort of economies of scale. We can consolidate these resources, limit some managerial costs, and some of these smaller towns, medium-sized towns, Springfield and smaller, can get a better rate of return because we're pooling those resources. Now, to me, that's the first step. Public fire and police, obviously they're concerned about maybe losing some representation on those particular boards, and that's fine. But this first step of pooling these public safety pensions would be great. And let me add, I mean, my opponent talks about public pensions all the time. He has never once come up with a solution. The only 3 solutions that he talks about with public pensions, first of all, he has voted 7 straight times no on the city budget, and he's already said 3 weeks ago he's going to vote no in the next city budget. He's got great foresight. I don't know what's going to be in that city budget. He wants to look at, he was on the radio 2 months ago, he wants to look at the Arizona model of going in and breaking contracts with Tier 1 employees, going in, changing the statewide constitution, and breaking contracts of Tier 1 employees, both current and retired. I don't think that's the right approach. People have made a decision when to retire based on that contract with that they made with the state of Illinois. And then thirdly, 7 weeks ago, he voted himself a pay raise, and he tried to tie it in to the pension. On his Twitter account 2 months ago, higher pension contributions would mean no salary increases for city employees. So council members, often with union campaign contributions in pocket, take the easy path, hike employee pay and underfund pensions. I don't think that's the answer.
Are there any, besides the consolidation of funds, that you think could help the city out with pensions? They just... No,
I think that's a major start. I mean, I think the mayor here has said, hey, he's got a balanced budget. We might be in the black a little bit. I don't even know if he's gone that far in the news yet. I think we'll have to see the budget. But hey, if we have some, then I wouldn't be against, taking some of that money and helping pay down our pension debt. But I think with the IML coming out last week with this, I think this is a good start.
Okay. Tourism is another oft talked about topic during the last year. Do you think the city is leveraging its attractions as best they can?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to the EDC again. I think it's all about one voice. Again, when people are coming to town, and whether it's building or tourism, I think the EDC can help. I just want it to be one voice. I want to streamline that whole process for tourism as well as economic development. I think it's one area, one person, one department. To me, can sort of handle all that, so we're not talking to 2, 3, 4, 5 different people.
Do you not think the city should have its tourism and
Oh, no, I
convention
think that's
group?
fine. No, I think
Okay.
that's fine. I think that's fine.
I guess, how do you, what could that bureau do? You've got a newer director there now at the SCVD.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
What could how could that role?
And I mean, she's doing a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, doing a great job. No, I think continue that. I think it's all about, I think hopefully she's got the resources she needs, but it's all about
Scott. I'm talking about Scott Dahl. Scott Dahl at the Tourism Bureau.
Okay.
That's
Scott Dahl. Okay.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay. Because that just has been, getting him seemed to be a big get for the city because of his background, and if there was just anything else you thought that bureau could be doing to attract more tourists here.
No, I think they just need to continue to do what they're doing.
Okay. You brought up already one of the hot topics we're going to ask you about, Capital Township, and the other one is what should go on the Y block.
Well, the Y block's interesting. I think it's great that we have 2 universities here, sort of. Wanting to come to Springfield, and it seems to me that that would be the location to put them. I lived downtown for the first 4 or 5 years I came to Springfield, and I think it seemed to be a combination really of some sort of development and building where in there as well as some green space. I think I've been down there a couple of times. I think the space is big enough to accommodate both some development and green space. Again, we need to bring in, so if it's not SIU or if it's not U of I, we need some development there, whether it's apartment buildings or whatever. Again, with an eye on bringing a few more tax dollars into the city of Springfield.
So did you get a chance to look at the Governing Magazine article about the racial divide in Springfield?
I did hear about it, and I think, I think there was a concern a couple years ago on the high-speed rail coming through and coming over here on 10th, but I think the council and/or the mayor at the time listened to everybody, and they spoke, and I think that's why right now we have 3 underpasses, and I think it could be up to 7. So I think that was a good gesture. I think it's communication. I think what Silas Johnson is doing with home ownership. I was at Icon Home Forum last week, and it's all about home ownership. I think we need to empower everybody to have a home, and I think Silas is working hard on the east side, trying to bring in some grants from the federal government to provide home ownership, and then like us, I mean, you start on the ground floor, you work your way into a house, and then you sell it, and you just work your way up, you do a bigger house. So I think, to me, it starts with home ownership as well as communication.
So with that, are there other things that the city council could be doing to encourage other strategies around race relations, home ownership, police, all of those issues?
Well, I think communication is the key. I mean, it's talking about police. I mean, I think we I have a meeting Wednesday night with our neighborhood police officer. I think that's important. I think what you guys do, what the media does, is very important. I think it's all, the police are doing a good job, but they always can do maybe a little bit better. When I go to homeowner association meetings, the MPO is there, and I think it's just all about communication.
So your time on the Civil Service Commission for the city, it always seems like minority hiring lags behind. Other thoughts that occur to you around
Well,
that?
I was there in the middle 2000. It seemed, and I can tell you at that point, and I assume they still do. I mean, the city spends a lot of time going out and recruiting. So when I say going out, I mean we're traveling the state. I mean they're going to Bloomington, to Peoria, to East St. Louis, and maybe giving some sort of presentation at a college or a school, and saying, hey, this is what we have going in Springfield. So I think we need to continue that. If that's what you're
Sure.
getting to.
I mean, yeah.
I think we need to continue with that.
Real active recruiting.
I think it's all about active recruiting. And at my time there, I think I was there from 06 or 07 to 14. So that was always a question we had once a month. Hey, what did we do this month to go out and active recruit minorities?
Sorry, just taking it up there. Excuse me. Is there anything else you'd want to share with voters that we didn't ask you about?
No, I don't think so. I think, really at the end of the day, me being alderman is something that I've sort of been doing my whole life here. I mean, I've been in the legislative process. I've brought people together. I've helped solve problems, and the alderman is really, any alderman, any mayor is really, a mayor's reflection on the city. I think your alderman is a reflection of your ward, and I think, I think we can do a little bit better. I think you can be obstinate to a point, and I think that's what we're getting from our current alderman. And I think Springfield is a great city. I think we have a few problems, a few things that we can handle, and I don't think by not being able to sit down with the other 9 aldermen, not being able to sit down with various interest groups, whatever side of the aisle they're on, whatever political spectrum, whatever side of the political spectrum they're on, is doing a disservice to not only the residents of Ward 7, but to the citizens of Springfield in general.
Let me, I meant to ask this earlier, I'm sorry, may seem out of place. What, do you have limits on campaign contributions? Are there groups that you'd not accept contributions from?
Well, I haven't got, the money I have. There hasn't been a concern about that at all. I mean, I think, if that's what you're asking, I mean, you talking political limits or just any influence? I mean,
Influence, that whole issue.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, the money I receive, anything over $150 is documented at the State Board of Elections.
Right.
I mean, anytime you receive right now a contribution of $1,000 or more, I have to, by law, get that on State Board of Elections website within, I think, 5 days.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of budget do you have in mind for a campaign like this?
Well, my budget is it's going to be enough. It's going to be enough for me to put me in a good position to be successful. And again, any of my contributions of $1,000 or more are going to be reported in 4 or 5 days. Now, it's unfortunate. I mean, it was 8 years ago that the SJR talked about my opponent, to me, playing fast and loose with contribution rules. He gave himself multiples donations of under $1,000 within the last month and a half of the campaign to stay under those contribution limits, so his opponents then would not know that he's loaning himself money. If that's what you're alluding to.
You said that was 8 years ago? No, that's not this campaign.
That was 8 years ago.
Congress, okay.
No, it was right here. Yeah.
Okay.
It's when he ran for alderman 8 years ago.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you, Brad, for meeting with us today, and invite you to give a brief closing statement as to why voters should choose you to prevail on Election Day.
Again, I thank the SGR for inviting me in here and sharing a few minutes about my background, as well as why I'm qualified for office. Again, I just reiterate, I think the mayor, aldermen are really a reflection upon their constituents that they represent. And for me, I'm proud of my record of being in Springfield for 30 years, helping to solve problems. I think both business and labor have recognized that fact, and I think that's why we have some serious problems here in Springfield. And I think only by being able to sit down with all parties involved can we move Ward 7 residents forward and ultimately the city of Springfield.